Okay, well, we're ready to start Churchill. Everything's set. I got the decks shuffled. I've got the Churchill, the conferences stacked, the deck for that. Basically, that's going to be stacked from 1 to 10. There's 3 of each type. And I decided to go with the secret agenda. So, Churchill's interested in Siam, Bulgaria, good luck with that, and Greece. Well, being over here kind of sucks. Siam's not so bad. I've got some advantages towards that. So this is something to keep in mind. The other players don't know about it. Over here, Austria, that would explain something. Hungary and Poland. Those also are not going to be easy. One nice thing, though, is if you've got other people, stuff from areas where another person is strong, there's more of a chance that he has stuff where you're strong and won't get the score. Like Cambodia, Laos, not particularly easy for the Russians. The Baltic states, pretty easy for them to get the score on. And then Austria, which... Austria is kind of the interesting... But, if the Soviets manage to push into Germany, they're going to get Austria, just by the nature of things. So we're at the beginning, and we're in the conference phase. We reveal the top conference card and implement its instructions. All right? By the way, we got, like I said, lots of extra pieces. None of them specified, to be used as your victory point markers. Those seemed like good choices. So this is Casablanca. I don't know if this is the historical. Battle of the Atlantic. Must use one production to place a naval marker in the Western Theater. Now this is green, which I believe means the Brits have to do it. I think. Green is their color. Red, BC Sharn. Oh no, that's kind of an orangish color. I wonder what that means. The color differentiation is supposed to give us something. I don't know what that is. Is that a red Stalin? Red Scharnhorst sorties. Roll a d6, 1d3 Murmansk convoy. 4 to 6 no convoy. Well, we have to put a production to place a naval marker in the Western Theater. This is a requirement for Churchill, so we're going to have to pay attention to that later, I guess. Alright, so let's roll a d6 for the Scharnhorst. I guess that's red for Soviet. It doesn't look terribly red to me, but... 5, no convoy, so we won't get any additional production from that. The Hump, lose 1 production for China aid off the U.S. And these are things, so for example, I can mark these. So the U.S. is supposed to normally get 6 production, I think. So now they only have 5, because one of them's been committed. For the Brits, they have to use 1 of their production to put a naval marker in the Western Theater. Well, I don't know if they normally get 4. I don't see a production cheat, but I can look under 4.23. And unfortunately, that's not it. Decision segment, that's a conference phase. I'm not seeing where the production is allocated. Crappies. There we go. Yeah, 4 for the UK. So 1 is going to have to go... I'll put it over here. This isn't... These are not where they belong. Okay. And that means I got 3 there. What is on the other side? Used. Okay. And I could mark the used ones just so I don't, leave them constantly over there, which would probably confuse me. And Turkey negotiation. UK loses one clandestine network during decision segment. Well, that is again something I have to worry about. Increased partisan activity. Now, I think these are supposed to take place during the agenda segment. Yeah, from top to bottom. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the increased partisan activity. Each player rolls a d6. And on a 1 through 3, they'll gain 2 clandestine networks. These will be placed later under normal Pall Mill table. Oh no, these will be placed now during Pall Mill table. Okay. So, I don't know, let's do the Brits first. 3. Gain 2 clandestine networks. And the other 2 gain 3. Okay. I'm not sure what the ordering is on these. Let's check the Pall Mill table for this, which is specified here. I've got a copy of it on the board, but this looks easier to read. The player to the left of the player who won the previous conference. So we start with Churchill. Okay. So I guess he places all of his first. Is that how it's done? Yeah. Okay. So he only has 2. And we'll check him out here. He's green, he'll roll green and red. First die will be his green die. Normally you're supposed to use red and blue, who cares? Right. So he gets 1-4. He gets one over in Denmark. And 4-1 will be one in Vietnam. And now our next is Uncle Joe. We'll let him roll the red die first instead. 2-4. It's going to be Yugoslavia. 6-2, Czechoslovakia. Where? Okay. Oh, interesting. I would have Cambodia, Laos. I would have actually switched Austria and Czechoslovakia because Austria is a little further west, and it was, as far as I'm concerned, more contested. The Russians kind of pulled a coup off by getting there. And what about Frankie, baby? Let's see what he gets. 31, Poland. 42, Yugoslavia. So he just bumped off the Russian hold in Yugoslavia. Oh no, the Chetniks are rising. And 22, he gets one in Austria. Alright. So that's triggered the card. Now we're going to have to take a break, shuffle, and deal out 7 staff cards. I've pulled the leaders out. This is kind of complicated. Roosevelt has 2 leaders. He has himself and then Harry Astroll. And we'll have to see, you know, eventually. I should go over the leaders because they do have specialties that I haven't really looked at here. So, good old Winnie. Every time you use him on a 2d6, on a 2 through 4, he takes a heart attack and he'll be inactive next time. He hit a couple of them. And then he has the bonus on whatever staff card he plays to try to control the agenda at the beginning. Stalin, if he's played on Paul Mill, there's got to be, the advantage. The advantage on him is he gains a political alignment marker if he's played on a global issue. This is big. If the global issue's out and he's played against it, he generates one of these little cylinders for later during the decision-making phase. So Stalin, his special ability is when he's played Paul Mill, you get a clandestine network marker, plus if Stalin is used to advance the A-bomb research, he cannot be debated. We already talked about that one. But his disadvantage is he's paranoid. He has to roll 2d6 when you use him. This is like the health issue. On a 2 through 4, all Soviet staff cards played for the remainder of the conference are reduced by 1 strength, but not to less than 1 before bonuses. And then he has the Niet Soviet staff cards have a +1 debate. And then finally, Roosevelt, whose special ability is if the global issue is on the UK or USSR track, he gains a political alignment marker. Now, this means you don't have to use Roosevelt. If the global issue is being debated and in favor of either of them, the U.S. actually begins to take control of more countries. That's kind of cool. His health, after each use, you roll 2 dice. On a 2 or a 3, he dies and becomes Truman. Well, that doesn't sound terribly bad, to tell you the truth, because Truman's, pretty strong too. But maybe doesn't have as good an attribute. National characteristic arsenal of democracy wins tiebreaks, and that'll stay when we hit Truman. Now, Truman's attribute is if the A-bomb marker is in the Trinity space, he gains a political alignment marker when played on any issue. That's pretty potent too. Maybe not quite the same, but we'll see. Inexperience, though. If the A-bomb marker is in the Trinity space, there's no effect, but if he doesn't get it there, you roll 2d6. On a 2 through 5, he loses 3 strength, so he's not a 7-point dude. And so you really want to get the A-bomb up before you get stuck with Truman. And then he still has the arsenal of democracy. We'll flip him over. Okay. So I got to deal out the cards, and then we proceed. It's always tough starting a new game, and I'm definitely having that kind of, what am I doing, Let's start looking. So Budyonny is penalized because of Stalin being active. He's only a 3-pointer. Offensive support marker in the far eastern front. I don't know if those attributes only play. Let's take a look. I'm curious whether they play if I use them for trying to choose the initial control of the conference. So these are the conference cards. These don't count. It's the staff cards. What about in the initial advancing an issue? Yeah, it looks like the attributes take effect no matter how I use him. So now that means I'm going to get to play all my cards, and so I will get an offensive support marker on the far eastern front. How much value that is to me in particular, I don't know. It takes 3 naval required to enter Japan, the amphibious space, but otherwise I'm fine. So I don't know if that's terribly valuable. Looked at him. Barishlikov, if Stalin is active at the conference, he's improved in strength. As far as I know, Stalin is active. Everybody's showing here, aren't they? Well, I don't see Stalin there. But Beria. If A-bomb research is an issue, +3 strength. After playing and discarding the next Soviet staff card this conference, roll a d6. On a 1, that card goes away. This is the danger to playing Beria. You can hold him for last, though. If played on a directed offensive, place an offensive support marker on the Eastern Front. Production issue. So what I'm curious about is so this says, if production issue on U.S. track, as opposed to if played on. I think this just is in effect if that's the case no matter what. So we have some ideas of what we want to do. We have a lot of high point cards. Do we want to try to jumpstart an issue? Yeah. If we jumpstart an issue with Stalin, it starts out well, no, it wouldn't, because it's the difference between the bids. So in particular, he seems like an iffy choice just because he's so low. I'm not terribly interested in playing any of these. So I think I'm going to play Budioni. Because I'm not terribly worried at this point about scoring the initial issue all that highly, although there are definitely things I'd like to put into play. And so that's kind of how I'm making my evaluation choices. I'm looking at the points and I'm just kind of saying, well, how important is it to me? Now this is decision making that's tough. You're sitting in the midst of the game playing opposed, and it's a tough call to make. And now I've got to kind of try to forget, hey, did he go high or low? Do I care, actually? Because really the play is, hey, if you do care, you want to play high. But if you don't terribly care, you probably don't want to play too low, because a very low card penalizes you. And my main decision on this is a guy who doesn't have an attribute that I particularly get anything out of. So he's sort of a blank to play. And I can do the same here. So for example here, hey, that's a bonus issue. If issue is a U.S. Directed offensive, yeah, I don't want to play that. That's my chief of staff. I roll a die when I play him. Stimson, don't want to play him. Jones, production is an issue. Gain naval markers. Yeah, I don't want to play that. Okay, well, I got a problem. There's nobody I particularly want to play. Which means what? Well, do I care that much about Marshall? Well, Churchill is active, so this gives me a 5 point. I'm going to play Harriman. I don't care all that much about the issue, but no, this is the issue you're dealing with. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm beginning to think Marshall's what I want to do. See, here's the problem. These say if strategic materials issue, and the one that I was looking at, if production issue on U.S. track, I think this only works against a production issue on the U.S. track. This one I definitely don't want to play. Yeah, I think I'm going to play this if issue is directed offensive, because I don't really care too much about the directed offensive right now. So he seems like a good choice. And now remember, Churchill's guys all get a +1 on this. I got Brooke, if played on a UK or US directed offensive. Again, I'm not sure I care about that. If Pacific leadership issue, he's so pointless, but yeah, I definitely don't want to give that away. I don't want to give that away. These have big bonuses that I like. A-bomb research. If played on a UK-directed offensive on the US track, +1 strength. Well, that's getting pretty specific here. If West Front has not yet left the theater box, place a naval marker in the Western theater box. That could be useful. This might not be a bad choice either. Okay. So, I feel like I've got 3 that I'm vaguely interested in throwing out here. I'm going to randomize with these. I felt much more directed with the I'm going to put noble into play. Alright, so now we've all selected what we're going for. And now we're here up here. Okay, so now we play and see if the high value, who has the high value. 3. Marshall is a 1. And Noble here is a 3. Okay, well, we got a tie. I believe that Roosevelt's going to break that tie. But I'm not sure. So let's check whether there is a tiebreaker on the conference phase. On the agenda. Okay, so I believe what happens is that Roosevelt's going to get the choice between Churchill and Boudillon. Well, problem here. This is, you always go clockwise here. The problem here is this, do I want to go second or do I want to go last? And I think the answer is I want to go last. If I'm not going to win it, I'm going to choose to go as late as possible because that gives me the most flexibility. So then the question becomes, okay, we discard cards, and Churchill gets to choose an issue that he wants to put to start with, and he's going to have a difference of his 3 to 1, he's going to have it on the 2 space. A-bomb research, you know. Paul Milre. Do I want Pacific leadership? Why would I care that much about it? The thing is, other people play Paul Mill. Or I can if need be. A-bomb, I count on other people doing a UK directed offensive. That would require the UK to pay for that offensive. That's not something I particularly want. A UK or US directed offensive. I think I'm going to put Pacific leadership up. This is kind of dicky of me. Because it's not something I'd normally care about. Now, starting with Stalin, I have to pick 2. And again, I look through my cards and make my choices. I'll get those guys out there. Everybody's going to put 2 more issues. This is we're come to, in part because of the cards that are chosen, Russians A-bomb research. I had to think about this because they really kind of want to get control of that. And I have a card that helps that. And then I also have Stalin, who I can use in a debate or in an advance, and it can't be debated. So I could actually slam that right into my chair if I want to. Alternatively, though, let's see, we wanted a directed offensive from the U.S. to get control of some of their support. And this both matched our cards. And likewise, the U.S. went for British production support and strategic materials, etc. So, we've got our issues picked, and now it's going to be the person clockwise. The Soviets are going to play. Yeah, it's really weird to see Churchill written on the thing and it not be Churchill. I understand it's the game's name, but I feel like this is Churchill, Stalin, Roosevelt. Although Mark Herman does bring forward why the name is Churchill and why that's the guiding facet. It's because Churchill was, such a prolific historical writer of the era, among other eras. Okay, so we can do an issue. Well, one of the things that I don't like doing, so basically there's two things you can do. One is pound an issue so heavily that you just have it. But I think it's and it keeps people away from it. That's appealing, because if you keep everything floating down around here, other people say, I can get that. But if you've got it deep in your own territory, they might say, screw that, man, I'm not going to fight for that. On the other hand, this guy's Paul Mill. This guy's in a directed offensive, but he doesn't really add much. A-bomb research +3 strength. So I could get 6 strength on the A-bomb, but it's not going to dump it over. But is that enough to maybe keep other people out of it? Yeah, maybe. So we're going to play that for 6. Now, immediately, the Americans would get the chance to contest that, because that's a pretty big jump. And now we look through. And we don't have anything that particularly affects that. Churchill could contest it as well. I got a big guy who's kind of wasted if I don't play him here, Henry Wilson. So I'm going to debate against Beria. Now, the danger to using Beria first off is he's going to cause a possible death on the next card. So I may want to play someone kind of crappy. Okay, so that's going to be a 5-point with a debate pass. I don't have to take my next card. And we'll counter that and push it down, and that goes into my discards. That means we're back on the U.S., and we start looking through his cards and saying, well, yeah, we'll probably play that later. Issue on Soviet track, or Churchill is active. So I think you become inactive. I don't remember if you become inactive or what when you use your main character. Like sometimes they're not active at the conference. Yeah, they become inactive. So there's a reason to play some people early no matter what. So here, issue is on Soviet track or Churchill is active. We're not sure. We look at our points and we say, well, there's things we have an advantage on. So I'm going to play Harriman with a 5-point bonus total towards The strategic materials. Do we care about that much now? I'm going to play 5-point bonus towards Paul Mill. Do I have bonuses on Paul Mill? Yeah, I have a little bit. Okay. We'll play Harriman. Now, I can again step in and debate. Now, one of the problems here is I've wasted my debate, my big card, on Stalin. But I've got this guy who I want to use for a debate because he's got a +3 on Paul Mill. So I'm going to play him as well and move this 4 more, preventing it from, continuing onward. Now it's Churchill's turn. I'm going to, I think, pass, as I'm allowed to here, because I'm really short on cards. Although Pacific Leadership, I could move that 3 more and get that close to my home. Yeah, we'll play it. There's a danger that I'll run out of cards, though. But we'll see. Okay, does anybody care about Pacific Leadership? And note, Stalin was not given an option to debate because Churchill got first shot. Well, I don't care about Pacific Leadership. I'm not going to debate that. What about Churchill? Or what about, yeah, they all say Churchill. Do I care about Pacific Leadership? First of all, do I have a bonus on it? Is there a U.S. production? There is not a U.S. production card. I kind of don't trust the Brits here. In terms of gaining the leadership on the front in Japan. They get victory points in this direction, maybe some here. Oh, this is if Southwest Pacific Front does not return, if MacArthur doesn't make it there. So there's some reason we might fear that. All right, we'll debate. Where was this? There was something is production an issue? Production is a British issue. The British production. Strategic materials we're interested in. Strategic materials. U.S. production, we have nothing on. So I'm going to play Claude Wickard for 3 points to prevent this from going over the edge. That whole going over the edge thing is weird because, maybe this is something I don't really want to fight for. But on the other hand, if I give Churchill a guaranteed pass on something because he's boosted it up so high, that's kind of a mistake of its own. All right, I'm going to take a little break here before we get to Beria. Well, let's do at least one more round. All right, so I've got Beria in place here, and he's problem. Which means, given that he has a chance of getting rid of a card, I want to play a crappy card. And there's nothing worse than Merkelov. Oh, he's dangerous too. He might gulag someone. Oh, geez, this is going horribly. All right, well, that's less likely, isn't it? No, it's equivalent. All right, well, we'll send Merkelov out. Now, alternatively, of course, I could save someone who's crappy, who's got one of these dangerous things, and throw Stalin with his problems into play. I might just grab an issue with Stalin, and that could get Merkelov. Yeah, that could get Merkelov. But this is... So his attribute wouldn't come into play if that happened. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to charge Stalin. This is dangerous. Turn him inactive. And I'm going to grab the A-bomb. Now, as I do that, Beria on a 1 gets rid of Merkelov. And Merkelov's ability doesn't come into play at all. Oh, all right, so he is just gone. Now, the thing is, I just fired Stalin off, who is paranoid. Roll 2 dice. On a 2 through 4, all staff cards for the remainder of the conference are reduced by 1. At least he doesn't die. Okay, so Churchill is fine over here. Sorry, Stalin. That says Churchill on him, man. That confuses the hell out of me. And we'll be over here. Do we want to play or not? I don't know. I need to swap that. I'm seeing a lot of movement over here, so I'm going to actually drop my pass into play. That puts us over to Churchill, who unfortunately has to play. So I got the directed offensives. Directed offensive on the U.S. track. Paul Mill on Soviet or U.S. Okay. This is what we're playing. That's going to be 6 points. It's not going to hold. We're pretty sure of Paul Mill over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, the Russians can debate that. Of course, they get to go next. They'll think about it. They don't want to debate. Does the U.S. want to debate that? Yeah, we'll debate it with Stimson, I guess. See, the problem with Stimson is he might get that important issue to me next time. But if I don't stop that, Churchill could get it. I think I'll withhold from debating it. Simply because, I got plenty of time to see what happens. Okay, that puts us over to the Russians and an offensive support marker. Okay. Stalin's no longer active. If I hadn't played Stalin on the A-bomb, of course it could have been debated then. Okay, that's a big card we probably don't want to play. Production issue on U.S. track. We can hold off on that. Directed offensive. Put an offensive support marker on the Eastern Front. That sounds like a good idea. So I'm going to play a directed offense 1, 2, 3 on the U.S. And that gets me an offensive support marker on the East Front, which will help me out later. How does the U.S. feel about directed offensive there? Because now, if I debate that, I can make 2 different plays. One on the Paul Mill that I'm afraid of falling into British hands. I am not going to debate. I don't really care much about those. Okay, Paul Mill, +1 strength, I get 6. Okay. But the Brits could debate that. Is there a reason for them to? They would love the Paul Mill. It's close. We'll hold off. UK or US directed offensive +1 strength. I'll take a directed offensive here. Brooke. I'll roll a green die because he's the green player, right? He gets only 1. That gives him 2. Pretty sure the Russians do not want to oppose that. And I'm not sure the U.S. particularly wants to. The whole debate thing is pretty iffy. There are times when it's really key. But generally, it's not like there's a big decision to be made there. Usually you can say, well, I can let the other guy take a shot at it, or my turn's coming up anyway, or whatever. But sometimes you need a double turn or something like that, so what the heck. All right. We played Stalin, and I've been forgetting about him. I think this is 1 back, because... Oh, no, I didn't have the Stalin bad effect. That only comes if he rolls a 2 to 4. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I have a lot of points. If Stalin is active, he's not. If production issue on U.S. track, it's not. So I'm going to hold off on this and see if that gets any better. We'll play this one, right? Offensive on Eastern Front. Far Eastern Front. Might as well. What do we want to move? Well, we could take control of another issue. At that point, we've got 2 of the 6 issues, of the 7 issues, locked up. And then the question is, can we sleaze another one? That sounds like a deal to me. So I'm going to do that, and I get an offensive support marker over on the Far Eastern Front. I don't care about that. Well, now the Russians are looking pretty scary. They've put away the A-bomb and another issue. These are my 2 strategic materials, guys. I'm going to jump my strategic materials up. Get that over on my side. I don't think anybody really wants to fight that. And Churchill's got 1 card. The UK directed offensive on the US track. Yeah, that is not going to help. So we'll not debate. And we're looking at strategic materials here. I could put it back in the middle. But maybe a production marker will end up on the U.S. track and I'll need to dig it out, so I'm not going to debate there. That puts it on Churchill. He must play his last card. He's got a 3-point card. I'm going to play it on the pole mill. Granted, right now I've got all 3 issues, but you know, that's probably enough to win the conference unless the Russians do incredibly well. But they're all at a low point, and it's unlikely that that's going to be handed off. The problem is the U.S. might be willing to help the Brits win the conference because a Russian conference win is worth more victory points. Okay. We got 5 points. Put the 5 on here. Grab that. Does the U.S. want to debate that? Not particularly. Now, I could bank the strategic materials permanently, but it doesn't look like anybody's fighting for it. So I'm going to play the production issue here and grab 5 points. And the Brits are like, why not? We need that production. And that gets me 2 extra Navy markers for the U.S., which could be pretty useful. Okay. I can't debate. I don't have a card, so I can't even use Churchill for a debate there. It looks like the Russians are winning this conference. We'll grab that pole mill. Unless Churchill wants to debate it. So I could drop this and debate that issue with Roosevelt. And I think that's worth it, because then I win the conference. So I'm going to drop Roosevelt on the table, and that gets me 7. Now this went exactly to here. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Actually, I don't know if I win the conference. If I'm not winning the conference, it's not worth it. I thought that got me over enough. Let's see what the tiebreakers are on the conference winning, because we'd each get 2. I thought also I'm getting the pole mill, which is pretty sweet too. Tiebreaker procedure. Yeah, I don't know if it's the general tiebreaker procedure. During the decision segment, during the agenda segment. If 2 or more players have won the same number of issues, starting with Stalin and proceeding to the left, they can fire their leader off to break the tie, which would mean I'd be giving it to Churchill. Yeah, I'm not willing to take that chance. So I'll let Stalin win the meeting, for better or worse. Okay. Which means I have this Crowley card. Strategic materials would be a +2. I could take something away from the Brits. I'm going to take Pacific leadership away, just because I'm a dick. But I don't want them getting control in the Pacific. I think that's going to be painful. It's pretty minor. Now, obviously, I could have banked strategic materials, but I've got the last card. I know what I'm doing there, you know. So who has the most issues? Well, that'll be the Russians. And we get them a chip. And they just won 5 victory points. This is really just a mnemonic. The points are going to be all available elsewhere, but I'll try to keep this up to date. If you watched my Through the Ages, yeah, that's not in here. It's in another room. Playthrough. All the tracks on that I had to keep up to date, those did not work for me. But here it should. Okay. Now we're going to be hitting the decision segment. Is this important to me? I think I want to pause. I think there are some victory points I didn't score when those clandestine networks went in. So we're going to be seeing, let's see. Nobody won the global issue. Was it out? No. Okay. We're going to be seeing some points for those. So let's add them up. Looks like the Reds got 2. Oh, jeez, I can't tell green and blue apart here. Crap. That's blue. Blue should have... Looks like everybody got 2. If I did them right. Okay. So now we're on the decisions. Directed offensives. Place marker in a front entry space. 6.1. Okay. So I got 1 and the Brits got 1. Any order to this? Starts with the player to the left of the conference winner, which means the Brits have to play their directed offensive first. Well, we want it here because the Mediterranean's important to us. And the Soviets, they want support over here on the Eastern Theater. Okay. Conditional issues. Let's see what's next. Determine conditional issues. Were any present? No, the 2 conditionals were not fired off. Production. Each player determines how many production counters he has to allocate. All right. We already have that set. But we get some additionals. So strategic materials gives the Americans an extra 1. The Arctic and Murmansk did not produce anything. Okay. Now we have to allocate them. Now we have to give some away here. So the Brits have to give a production over to the Americans. And isn't there another? Okay. I thought the Americans had a production issue in play. All right. And now each player in turn has to give the production markers. And again, we're doing these, I guess, after all players, each player in turn allocates. Yeah, I think the Russians won, so the U.S. has to place its first. Now, I have to give some away. This one was used up for something. It got triggered by this card. Must use a production to place a naval in the Western theater. Yeah. What's that? That's a UK production there. Oh, this is the Lose One production for China Aid. Okay. So, I'm going to have to play my production markers. And here, we need 3 navies to move forward. Do we particularly care? We know the Brits are spending 1. What are these 2 navies from? These 2 navies are going to be from one of the cards I had. So I'm going to put those 2 navies there for now. I need navies to advance here too, though. Remember, the amphibious means I need like 3 navies to advance at all. I'd like to advance on broad fronts, so I'm going to use these 4 up to put. Oh, I'll only use 2 of them. I already got 3 navies in one place. To put 2 more navies here in the East Pacific. Okay. And now my offensive support markers. Well, without Normandy in play, I don't have to really focus so heavily on Germany. So I'm going to play these other 2. I got a whole bunch here. I'm going to play these other 4. To put offensive support markers in both of these, and that'll improve my chance of moving forward in those. I can focus over there later. Did I have an extra one? I don't know. It looks to me like I got an extra one here. Did I want this? So this I didn't have to pay for. I paid 2, 4, 5, 6. Those I didn't have to pay for. Yeah, one of these was spent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I still have 1 left. Put another marker here in the Pacific. Okay. So that puts us to the Brits, who have almost nothing. They're going to spend both of theirs. Why? See, I'm so used to the U.S. being green that I used their strategic support marker. The Brits get 2. We're gonna. Why do we have a navy here in the Mediterranean? How did that happen? Did that just start there? I'm not sure. We're gonna slap those down. Yeah, I don't know what happens, and I also don't know. Does Navy get cleaned up? I don't think it does. I think it's there permanently, so having 3 in each of these is actually pretty important. Okay, and this, we had to commit this for another Navy over here in the West, which gets us our invasion capability, which is why the U.S. went in there. Okay. So now, theater leadership, offensive naval support are awarded for this. All right. Theater did not move. Nobody got the points for that. So each gets an offensive or naval support for each theater where they have a leadership marker. The U.S. gets 1. I'll keep things balanced here. The U.K. gets 1 over here. We're not as interested in keeping things balanced. Well, see, we're not going to make it past Sicily. I got to put it in the European theater, though. Okay. And nobody won a theater leadership issue, so they don't get any additional points for that. A-bomb research, right? Roll a die. Well, first of all, let's reset this. The Russians succeed, and then the Americans... I could have thrown production into this. You know, I'm going to use that point of production for a +1 to the die roll. That means on a 3 or higher, I go forward. All right. And we do. We pretty much want that because otherwise Truman becomes kind of a lousy president. And the global issue marker does not move. Okay, now we're moving to the war phase. Clandestine networks, starting with whoever has the most of these. Well, that's a good question. We have to actually pay these out. And I don't know if I did already. Each player gets 1 plus any through staff cards, la la la. So everybody gets just 1. And then we'll look at political points as well. See if anybody gets any of these. If a country or colony has a political alignment marker and all the political alignment markers not, yeah. Looking to see how you get any. I don't see any assignment of them. Like here it says each player gets 1. And then they get additionals through other means. So let's see. Who's got the largest? We don't know. If there's a tie, the U.S. gets to decide who goes next. Well, geez, do I want to go first and somehow protect some of mine or not? So there is an issue when the war advances. See, when a front advances past one of these lines, that causes some problems here with the with this. If a country where a player has clandestine network, he may discard 1 of his own unplayed political alignment and loot, applying it to remove a player's. Yeah, no, that's not it. Fronts. Okay, I gotta find this because somewhere. Here we go. Front effects on clandestine. Where a front marker is located is known as the front line. All countries or countries connected to that space are on the front line. When a front advances, all the country or colony spaces connected to that front space are now permanently behind the front. When an advance of a U.S. or U.K. front puts countries or colonies with Soviet clandestine networks behind the front, one of the Soviets is removed. So there's a danger to U.S. and U.K. playing on the East Front unless they're pretty sure that the Russians aren't going to advance there. Colonies cannot be played on. It only costs 1 to remove political alignments. And none are placed in countries connected to the Western or Eastern Front tracks. No political alignment, which there's an issue to that. So we're forcing the Brits to go first. Well, Greece, Bulgaria, Siam. Greece is behind here, Bulgaria is behind there. What about Siam? We'll just drop into Siam, you know. There's no real telegraph of that. This is colonial territory. Although actually we get more points by not putting a colonial there. But I think the secret agenda, yeah, you have to have a colonial, you have to have a political alignment for that to happen. But this is, see, this is really kind of declaring what you're doing. Let's just put it in the Middle East. We're heading that way anyway, right? Okay, that puts it to the Russians. The Russians say Cambodia, Laos, Baltic. Oh, nobody can play political in these things. Okay. Baltic states, Austria. I could pick off Austria. We'll go in the Baltic states. Who knows? Somebody else might go into Austria, right? Poland, Austria, and Hungary. Yeah, well, we don't really want to spend on the East Front until we see what's happening. We don't really want to play here. So we'll play in France. Okay. So it looks to me like there's no bonus political alignment counters that come to you. We look at the Arctic theater. Nobody pushed for. Oh, wait! I owe an offensive here. Where did the U.S. Oh, jeez. The U.S. owed 2 offensives. Okay, I'll take 2 of these. One's here. These are the directed offensives I had to play. And one's here, and it'll support that one. Okay. So these are, I'll put these back. It may be that not everything has to go back, but pretty much as you play things, you can kind of throw them back. The Russians had a support here. I screwed up. Where they were firing, I forgot they had the political military. So they actually have 2 more chips and 2 more of these, and they had to go first on these. Now, I'm not terribly interested in blowing these guys out of the water. With these political ones, though, it might be of value to me. I can't place in Western or Eastern Front tracks. Okay. I can't place political markers, which to me means Britain would not have gone first because the Russians had to go. And this is what we see. Legit, because I have a clandestine network, so I can build those. Now, where did Blue play? Blue played in France, so they have to make the next play. Well, France still looks good, and we'll go into Belgium, I guess. All right. So blue and green each went up by 1. Red went up by 3 each, so 6 more points. Getting to a big lead like that doesn't necessarily mean a hell of a lot. I saw mine fade away real fast, and I knew it was going to happen when I played. So try to move all these markers and get them out of the way so that they don't confuse me again later. Okay. So now we're at the military segment, Axis reserve placement. So these are kind of automatic. We look at Europe. If any front is entering Germany, no. Place a German army in the Soviet East Front's entry space. If both West and East are positioned to enter Germany, position the army to clearly... Yeah. Battle of the Atlantic. I get to remove a naval support marker. Oh! Geez, I need another ship here. Yeah, I don't... Oh, well. We're going to fail because I wasn't paying attention. I remove one naval support marker from there. The Eastern Horde. If the U.S. has not exited UK Bolero, it hasn't. 4 armies go east. I think we're going to have a hard time this turn. Because we don't know what we're doing. Atlantic Wall. If the Western Front is in UK Bolero, no. If Normandy has not been entered, place 2 German armies on the entry space of the front that is closer to Germany. The Mediterranean is not chosen for this. Well, I don't have 2 armies left. All I have is this Italian army. Right? Or is that... Maybe the Italian army can be sent there. Does it say just German army? It says just German armies. Okay. So which one's closer to Germany? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're equidistant. What do we do? I think we roll a die. Because we've got... So odd west, even east. Odd to the west. So this is in the UK. Huh. That doesn't sound right. Is this right? If Normandy has previously been entered. No, it hasn't. Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense to be in the UK. Place the Italian in the Mediterranean front. The remaining armies are random. Roll a die on a 1 to 2 Western, 3 to 4 Eastern, 5 Med, 6 Arctic. One. It's going to be on the West Front. I think this actually does go here, though. I'm not sure what it's doing, but it's somehow interfering with British play. Okay. And now we do the Pacific as well. German military collapse, we don't have that. West Germany? Oh, there is a West Germany space. Interesting. If any front is attempting to enter Japan, no. If the USSR front has exited the Far East theater box, it has not. If any front is attempting to enter a B-29, put a Japanese army in each of these. Doesn't look like it. Roll a 6-sided die. On a 1 to 2, place a Japanese navy in the theater box of a front attempting to enter an amphibious entry space. Nope. Philippine and Leyte Gulf. If the IJN was placed, the IJN eliminates naval support, and then it has a chance that the Japanese get destroyed. Here's what's weird. There are 2 Japanese naval reserves, and maybe there's only supposed to be one of these gray counters. The thing is, over here they tell me there's 3. It's possible that you could track these some other way. They only get used one at a time, but I don't think that makes sense. All remaining armies randomly distributed between the Central Pacific, South Pacific, and CBI. Roll a 6-sided dice on each. Okay, well, I got 4 armies. We got the die rolls marked here. So I got one for the 2 in the Marshalls, 2 in the 3/4 track, down here in the Solomons, and 1 over on the 5/6 track. Okay. And now we check for front advancement. Okay. So the Germans destroyed a navy here. This isn't going forward. Oops. This is not a navy. This is not a naval space. We have 3 advancement markers. So I believe the base strength is 2 plus 6 puts us to 8, puts us down to 6. If we roll a 6 or less, we move forward with the Brits. And we do. Okay. Over here against the Russians. Yeah, well, we're not winning against the Germans are beating the Russians here. These two cancel it out. The Russians have been defeated there. Over here. Here we would need a 0. There are no zeros on the die. The die is 10 is a 10, or 0 is a 10. So China-Burma is not moving forward. Here we've got a 4. So we can deploy some troops, but we can't invade Manchuria. Hey, we move forward. And these offensive supports, I'm going to clean them up in a bit, but I don't know about the naval. Here I'm allowed to try to advance. I'm on a 2 because I start with 2, I put plus 2, and then these 2 go away. Okay, that's not going in. And here I'm again at a 2 because I have 2 offensive supports matched against 2 blocks. And we are going forward. Get those out of there. All right. And I've got some cleanup to do. I have to check to see if those navies are supposed to come off the board. I don't think they are. I think they stay throughout the game. The offensive support markers come off. Which makes navies a great buy, except when you're stupid and don't put enough in play. Actually explained in the advancing a front. Whenever you check a front, you get rid of all the offensive support markers. You do no claim to get rid of the navies, and that corresponds with how I remember the game working. Okay, post-mortem, the game has not ended, so we move on to the second conference. I'll move this first one over to the box, and I'll load this up, and then tomorrow we'll come to some more.